you go. So yeah, so then my thought process is now, like I wanted to do back in the early times, what I wanted to try to do is record some of these and then post them on YouTube. So if you guys miss something, like Vince, if you have to bounce out of here, I'll repost the video with the audio on YouTube. I think that'll probably be the best way of doing it. So you guys can always go back and check past days' work. So we'll start that today moving forward to record it and repost it on YouTube for everybody so they can go back and kind of catch what they missed. We really didn't do anything yet. We're just kind of still waiting for everyone to get in the room. The other thing is, if you are not signed into the Google Classroom, you need to make sure you're signed into the Google Classroom. So you go to Google Classroom with a personal email address. We did not issue school email addresses. Since then, they have for the people who have not set up yet, but we did not issue your own email address. So my classroom is already started under the appropriate classroom space. So everyone that's signed in can just continue using their personal email address. Anyone new will have to use a personal email address. And you'll have to go into the Google Classroom and use the class code LIXUFFE. That's also posted on our Instagram account where you can join the classroom. Right now, let me just show you how this is working. So when I go into classwork here, let me minimize my peeps. And I see an assignment like 8B. When I view that assignment, it tells me how many people got the assignment or still have been assigned, how many people have graded it, and how many people have turned it in. So then I go through and issue grades accordingly. So Vince, you initially gave me something, correct? So then I see Vince's work here, just so you guys see the back end of this. So I can see Vince's work here and see what he had done. So then I'll grade appropriately. Now, the only thing on this one, Vince, and what I've been telling people is that there is a sheet that I needed handed in. So let me see if I can go backwards for a second and show you somebody who handed in that sheet, and that would be Robbie. So Robbie was able to find it. I don't know if he took a screenshot or just took a picture with his phone, which was fine. Nice Mets banner in the background, by the way. And yeah, so this is what I was looking for. This should be in your account information. So you see it says his name. And then it has an SPI rating, which is what I'm looking for, and tells me how many games they did, how many workouts they did, and so on and so forth. So this is an important piece of the puzzle here for Project 8B. This is what I tried to explain to you guys, I guess, before we left school. It was a little more difficult to do that after school, but it's absolutely possible to go into your account information and get this sheet. This is what I need. I need the SPI rating to go along with your project. So if you already submitted stuff, which a lot of people had done, which is great, Eleanor did it as well. That's awesome. And I'm looking forward to going through all these and seeing who did what and what did who. But I don't know who's Zach Parker. Who's Zach Parker? Oh, Zach. It is Zach, but Parker is not his last name, so he uses his middle name. Anyway, so I can see who's missing still, and then I can see the grades that people got based upon their writing. Remember, the instructions were to fill out all the lines, to do it every single day. At this point, if you've missed a day, I would just go back and play it another day, just to make sure you have the 15 days that you need to do it. And what I had done for your grading is not only did I give you a grade, but I also added a little note to it if you were missing something or if you wanted to add something. If you wanted to get full credit for it, you can resubmit the information, resubmit filling in the writing, resubmit by adding the picture of the SPI rating. Vince, go ahead.
Do you just need the SPI?
I do. Yeah. I mean, it would be nice to have your name on there too to make sure I know it's you, but yes, SPI and then the handwritten 2 sheets.
I submitted another thing and it should have the SPI on it.
Just now.
Like earlier today.
Okay. Here, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So I see Vince and I go to my attachments. And so I'll pull it over here so I can see it. And then you can see there's your second sheet. Yeah.
Yeah. You want the full thing, or is
No,
that
I mean,
fine?
what'd you do? Just take a screenshot?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. As long as I have
And
something there.
I can't do anything about that missing day, right?
No, you could do the missing day, fill that in, and resubmit everything, and then resubmit the SPI score too, because that'll change.
Okay.
All right.
I'll
So
do that.
everything can be resubmitted for whatever extended period amount of time this is going to take. So don't give up on a project. Don't just do it and then just say, "Oh, good enough." I'm sending you back notes about how it can be better. And because of the platform we're on right now, I'm not in a rush to get these grades in. They'll all be stored digitally on the Google Classroom. So I can always give you more points for doing more work, which is what this is all about. Just do some work. All right. So that was the Google Classroom. Please make sure that you guys are all joining it and being part of it. Just as a heads up, the upcoming projects, so projects 8D and 8C, they're just written projects. You can handwrite them if you'd like. You can type them and then resubmit it as a Word document. I'm good with that. So just do what you're supposed to do. That's all due on Friday. And right now I'm working on the test for what we're doing on Friday. So Trey says some things. Let's see who else. I can't go to Zoom.the US. Yes, you can. I can't join the Zoom. Yes, you can. Again, the number Wawa is trying to get in, and he's been in a lot, so I know it's possible. 161 dash. I want to say 130 dash. Oh wait. Do we have a Wawa? Did Wawa make it? No, Mike made it. And then dash 378. 378. Try it again because it's not blocked by any means. And so it might take a minute or two, maybe because you started up or maybe something technologically is not working right. But please make sure that you, join the classroom at some point every day. Like I said, I am taking attendance. I've been doing some statistics through Zoom that allow me to look at who joined and at what time and how long and all that stuff. But like I said, if you have another class to go to, I'm totally good with it. I understand. And please make sure you attend all your classes, at least get in these Zoom meetings so I know who is there. Pop in for as long as it takes. And then the other thing I said was starting today, I'm recording every Zoom meeting. And this allows me then to repost that on our YouTube channel. So I'm going to take every single meeting that we attend, that we do, and I'm going to repost it on YouTube. So if people miss parts or they miss some of the information of what was discussed because they had to leave the room to go to another class, you can always go back and listen back to what's going on. All right. We all good with that? Okie dokie. So today, like I said, we're just going to make sure that everyone is still coming in and participating. We are making sure that you do the assignments that were assigned to you. That's Project 8B. A number of you turned in the information, but there's still a tremendous amount of outstanding people who have not turned in information. And then, of course, 8D and 8C are due at the end of the week, and I'm working on getting a test together that we can take while we're here in this session. So try to block out a little bit of time on Friday for a 10 o'clock, let's say 10:15 test. I'm working on the logistics of how to do that live, so that way we can do it all together. And at least we can go through the important things. So when we're back to school, hopefully, by May, I hope at this point, we can pick up where we left off. And I know a lot of people have expressed some concern and how difficult it is to learn about logic without actually having logic itself. But again, I recommend that if you really, really are serious about getting to know this program, not only should you be part of these lessons, but then I would explore a little more information on your own. I mean, I could sit here for hours and show you the ins and outs of every little bit, but I have a feeling at one point you're going to trail off. At one point, the attention span isn't there, and I get that because it is very difficult to do this remotely. So sometimes what I recommend is going on to a YouTube channel or a website. And like I said, anything that I find interesting, I usually post information. So for instance, the post on March 26th. Here's a great resource for Logic Pro potential questions for the certification test. This was a great little link for you guys to follow and to look along with. And then I will post some more videos in the upcoming days, stuff that you can go into and see how people are using it. Like I said, lynda.com is a great, great resource. They have, I think, a 30-day free preview. And if they don't, then obviously a lot of their introductory lessons are available on YouTube and on their website. So highly recommend that to continue or to try to understand a little more about what's going on. Even though you don't have it, it might help to watch along. And for the people that have it, have a significant advantage. I mean, they just do, because they're able to use it or have been using it. But I anticipate a lot of you have already used this program over the last, 6 or 7 months being in the class, or for the second year students, well over a year, and got the official training last year. A lot of these questions that are going to come up are very general based questions, not as specific as I would do in the classroom, but they would have a lot of stuff that is going to be covered in, let's say, this link down here with the Apple training, the stuff that I think that's going to be really necessary for you to know and to learn, so you can, at least have an idea of what the software is all about and how to use it. All right. So I'm going to end the Instagram live feed. Anyone that's stuck over an Instagram live feed, please try to get over to the Zoom meeting. I'll do that. And there we go. And a lot of people are on that trying to get information about how to get onto the new Zoom number. And like I said, on Mondays now, what I'll do is I'll end up posting, as you can see, I did here, and that was over the weekend, a new Zoom number, which is right here, which is the same Zoom number I gave out, 161-130-378. That'll be this week's number. And it will change for next week. So please make sure that you check in over the weekend about what the new Zoom number is before we join on Monday, so there's not as much confusion. All right, let's talk about some tech specs on Logic Pro. If anybody has questions throughout, do me a favor and just raise your hand. I'll look at it over here in the participant window. I'll try to make this as small and as hidden as possible so I can see people when they raise their hand, and there we go. So I wanted to just travel a little backwards here. I know we did some layout identifying and things like that allowed us to see the parts of Logic, but what you can't see on the surface when you open the software is its capability. Its capability is pretty massive, and it does make it one of the leading DAWs in the industry. So let's talk a little bit about, what Logic Pro is capable of. And a lot of that is found on that link through the Google Classroom, like I said, and you can read this over. I'll highlight some of the important parts. And of course, I will post notes throughout the week, or maybe even by Thursday, maybe by Wednesday of this week, just so you have about 48 hours before the test to kind of review everything and shoot out some questions and throw information. And remember, my email address is always available for you guys to get in touch with me all day. I have my laptop open all day. I'm doing work all the time. I'm basically stuck at a laptop for the entire school day. So let's take a look at this. So before you buy Logic, and I know a lot of people are very interested in getting it if they haven't gotten it already, one of the things that Logic has is, of course, its minimum requirements, and it's very simple. I think a lot of the entry-level computers on Apple's website have these specs, so anything relatively new can have it. I have a computer right here in this room that is from 2012, and it still meets its minimum specifications, no problem. So Apple's usually have a very good longevity in regards to being relevant for new software. Logic requires 6 gigs of disk space because there is a lot of data, but then to get the full sound library, you need 63 gigs of space. And that's what we talked about last week, of all those loops and all those clips and MIDI information. That stuff is really massive. 63 gigs is a big chunk of change. If you have an external hard drive, you can allocate. I've seen online ways to allocate the content off of your computer hard drive and onto an external. It would be still accessible, but you obviously need to have that external turned on and connected. There is an app called Logic Remote. I believe I have it here on the iPad. Let me take a look. so you can at least see what that is. I do. Logic Remote is here. It is a application that allows you to connect to Logic remotely, I mean wirelessly, using Bluetooth, and then you can change faders and do all sorts of fun stuff through the digital Bluetooth interface. So I can actually attempt to connect to my laptop right now. It's actually really interesting, which it may or may not work. Let's take a look. Ooh, connect. I can connect. Look at that. Isn't that magical? So look at this. I'm actually recording right now, or set up to record inside of Logic, and I'm displayed the Logic interface right now on my iPad. So very, very cool concept. Pro Tools has this. There's a couple other programs that do this as well, but that's always fun. It's good that then you can take your, your iPad around the room and change it from wherever you are. You could start a recording as you roll over to this side of the room to play a keyboard or something like that. The downfall is you only really seeing the mixer. You don't get to see the edit window, so you can't really do any major edits on that, which is fine. We really don't need to do editing on an iPad. That's what our computer is for. We definitely want to maybe during the recording process use the iPad so you can, be a little more hands-free with other things as you roll around the room and set up guitars and test levels and hit record arm and things like that. So very cool. Very, very cool. All right, let's go down to some general information. A lot of assigned definable keys for MIDIs. Recallable screens, not super important for me. 200-step undo history is pretty important. That means you can undo 200 moves back. I mean, that's a lot of undos. If you're doing that far, you might as well just close the program and start anew. That's crazy amounts of stuff. Full plugin latency compensation. Yeah, I mean, latency compensation is a big deal. Now, as computers get better and better, as computers are getting bigger and better, latency becomes less of an issue as we go along. The whole thing is that latency is the delay from the moment you do something to the moment you hear it back. So when you're talking like I am now, I'm not actually hearing myself at all through speakers or anything like that. I only hear you guys through those. But the great thing is if you can cut down the latency, you can remove that echo and you can record virtually in real time. So every software needs to have some sort of latency compensation to adjust for that. So you're sounding and hearing while you're recording the right stuff. And then there's just a tremendous amount of note resolution, not super important. Let's talk about audio. Audiophile IO resolution, 24-bit 192. So it doesn't go 32-bit float like Pro Tools does. Not a big deal. 24 is ridiculous, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. 192 we know is the highest sample rate possible in audio today. The key component on this is that you need to have a device that records at 192. If your device doesn't record at 192, you can't choose 192. If you go into Logic Pro, and again, you go into your preferences and your audio, the information here gives you some, lead room on what you're doing. We'll talk more about how it translates here in the buffer size for latency and stuff like that. And then the other place to find something about recording and your sample rate is going to be in here. And audio. And so right here, you see my sample rate at 44.1, but you could see I do have the ability to go 192, but it's italicized, meaning it's not available because the interface is plugged in, can't do it. My interface plugged in is a Scarlett actually up there today. So I can record up to 96 here on this computer. Now listen, 96 is nothing to laugh about. 96 is awesome. So I really don't necessarily have this huge need to go any further than that unless a client or a customer would like me to do it 192 for very specific reasons. So at this point, I'm pretty much in compliance with some of the major standards in the industry. I don't have to worry about it too much, but I just wanted to, again, show you how that translates into the software. Now, maximum recording length greater than 16 hours at 96. Yeah, I can record up to 6 hours at 96, 13 hours at 44.1. That's an amazing amount of time. And of course, as long as you have disk space too. Your disk space is a big deal as well. And if you're recording at a very large sample rate. You can have larger size files, and you're going to soak up more disk space over time. Professional dithering algorithms. So these are mostly to do with mastering. We get into dithering with mastering, which we will do here in Logic. And we will also, as I mentioned last week, combine that with Pro Tools mastering. So that's just something we'll keep in mind, throw in the back of the pile for now. And a 64-bit summing engine just means it's a 64-bit program. We're not too interested about scoring. For those of you who are musicians and know about scoring, this probably is really cool for you. I'm not a huge music writer, meaning I don't really score anything. It's cool every so often that once you write something on the keyboard and you see it in MIDI, to look at it and what the score would look like. It's like, wow. But for the most part, it's not us. But the great thing about Logic, along with other programs now, is we can build something in our MIDI, and then we can take that information, convert it into score, and hand it off to a real musician. So if I create a violin MIDI track, I can actually score it and then hand it off to a real violinist who, in turn, should be able to read the score sheet and be able to play it back exactly the way I played it in Logic. And this allows you then to substitute a electronic violin for a real violin, whose subtleties with the bow and the strings and the way they play and the sound and the tone means means a big difference in how that sound is going to be. So the score editor for scoring people and people that play real instruments, very good. Okay, let's get into our plugin work, because this is where it starts to get crazy. All right. So much content is available to you in Logic. So much content. 69 effect plugins right off the bat. Right off the bat, you're getting 69 plugins. Again, for the price point of Logic and for what it does, this is why it's really a very cool software. You also get a pedal board, and that includes 35 different stomp boxes. And stomp boxes are guitar pedals, bass pedals, effect pedals. So for the guitarist, this is a very cool, relatively cheap. I think one basic distortion stomp box can cost about $100, and that's the bare minimum. So when you buy the software for $200, you're getting 35 different virtual stomp boxes. Do they sound as good as the originals? Nah, not really, but they're pretty damn close for $200. I'll take it. 23 software instrument plugins. So 23 different instruments. Now, this isn't necessarily, 23 instruments isn't necessarily like I have a piano, there's one. No, that's not the way that works. Very quickly, if I just start a software instrument here in the software, let me show you this. So you see all these, you're like, oh, there's my 23 right off the bat. No, the true thing is that our MIDI and our, let's say I'll go into my bass for a second here, and we'll go with fingerstyle. You see this guy right here where it says EXS24? Well, that is a MIDI software instrument generator. And that's one of your, what did I say, 24? 23 plugins. So if I drop this down, here are the 23 generators. And all of these 23 generators are a little different. The only one that's just itself is the piano. Other than that, everything else has so many different sounds and so many different avenues, like, for instance, Alchemy and Drum Kit Designer, which is amazing. All of our samplers, from synth to the XS24 sampler itself, which has thousands of different instruments in it. Modeling synths and drum synths. Ultrabeat is a electronic drum piece of software. Organs, clav, piano. That's what I'm saying. Like, these are just individual instruments, but some, like the XS24, have thousands of sounds. So even though it doesn't seem like a lot, like we're only getting 23 software instruments, some of those instruments have thousands of sounds built into them. So you just got to keep that in mind when deciding on what you're doing. 9 MIDI plugins. So the plugins are over here under MIDI effects. There's our 9. And like I said to you, when we get into MIDI in this software, this is going to be a lot of fun. I really love this part of it. Custom instrument tuning, including 96 fixed tuning presets. So these are all the presets within the plugin, within the instrument. And 18 different instrument effect plugins with true surround support. So when we get into some advanced MIDI and some advanced plugin work. We'll talk a little bit about that. Let's go into the sound library. I know I discuss this a lot. I think the sound library is one of the key purchasing components of Logic itself. 2,900 patches for audio, auxiliary, software instrument, and output tracks. Oh yeah, that's a lot. That's not a little bit. You're not going to find that many in any other software that I can think of. I mean, you can spend your time researching the differences, which actually you guys might be doing that. We'll talk about that hopefully next week. 10,000 Apple loops covering a wide range of genres. Absolutely. 10,000 loops. Wow. 1,000 different EXS24 samplers. So the EXS24 is one of the 23, and then in that is 1,000 different sounds. And then, of course, an unlimited amount of settings you can change. 4,300 plugin settings. 4,300. 38 ultra drum beats, 6,600 reverb spaces, 6,660, sorry, and 54 groove patterns, which are very cool. We'll get into the arpeggiator when I talked about the MIDI plugin. Let's deal with the mixer. This is important. All right, this is one of the ones that Logic wants you to know. They will test you on this, and if I can get my test running, it probably will be for Friday. One of these will be on there, if not multiple ones of these will be on there. So we're going to go up to 1,000 stereo audio channel strips. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. Up to 1,000 software instrument channel strips. Awesome. 1,000. You could put 1,000 stereo audio tracks. That's a lot. And then add another 1,000 software instruments. Now, of course, this is all going to be based on whether the computer can handle this amount of processing. And usually it can. Like I said, anything relatively within the last 2 years of a Mac computer should be able to handle up to this. 1,000 different auxiliaries, so 3,000 tracks right off the bat. 256 buses, which is way too many to have, but sure, if it's there and it's capable, you might as well use some. 1,000 different external MIDI tracks, so that's the taking of sound from an external MIDI device and being able to put it into the software, and you can hear the sound from another device, not just within Logic. 15 inserts or audio units. So I don't know if anyone remembers, but Pro Tools was A through E and F through J. That was 10 total plugins. Logic has bumped up to 15 different plugins per insert, per track. 8 inserts for internal or audio units for MIDI. So you can do 8 inserts in MIDI, 12 per channel strip, pre or post fader or post pan. We'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about signal flow, but 12 sends is pretty much enough. I don't think I'm ever going to send a single signal out to 12 different auxiliary tracks, but you could. That's what it's saying. 32 groups of audio, so 32 groups, not as extensive as Pro Tools was. Pro Tools was something like 144 different groups. I think that's probably necessary for Pro Tools because Pro Tools is used in live setups more than Logic would be. And when you do a live setup, you got to have a lot of different groups, like different mixes for different people in their monitoring, different mixes in the space, in the venue for different speakers here and there. So yeah, I think you would probably need more grouping in Pro Tools, but not so much here in Logic. 32 is plenty. I don't think I've ever even used 32. So, of course, we know we have control surface support. EUCON is the big one that we use in the studio for Euphonics and Avid Artist Series control surfaces. But going back to you guys questioning what kind of MIDI controller can be used to create sound in the software, here's a easy list to start on to see if you can find one of these at a price point that you can afford, because some of them are relatively, I don't want to say inexpensive, but at least they're affordable. Down here, Korg, the Control 49, the Micro Control. These are things that you can go off and shop for if you guys are looking for a controller. But like I said, anything that's a USB controller should be able to basically control any MIDI inside of Logic or Pro Tools for that matter. It's a matter of if it doesn't come with the software built in like this is, or you have another surface somewhere out there that you want to use that would come with its own software, a patch that have to be downloaded from the website, and things that need to be done in addition to just plugging it in. That's what we call plug and play. When you can just plug it in and it works, awesome. But if that doesn't work, you're going to need some sort of third-party software to make it work. You could see my nano controls here, but also look, hey, my PreSonus fader port. Love that little guy. Now, these are additional plugins available from third-party manufacturers. This is what I'm talking about. If I have something that I want to use, I want to be able to utilize one of these, but I need additional software to make it work. That's all that means. These are built into Logic. These you'll have to download. And in the end, they're probably more extensive than this. This is just the ones that they have qualified as working. Surround sound, we probably won't do too much of this just because we don't have a surround sound system in our houses or in our computers. At the school, we have a 5.1 system where if we get back by May, we probably will have time to go into that. So we'll talk about that here. Go. Compatibility. Always interested in compatibility. Open projects from Logic 5 or later. Guess who learned Logic 5? I did. I learned Logic 5 back in 2001 or 2002. And I taught Logic 5 to people at the Apple Store under a program called ProCare, where if you came into the store and you purchased Logic, I would then offer you a $99 package, 3 training classes, and I would sit down with you one-on-one for about an hour and teach you the level 101 and 102 information so you can get started and working on that. So I've used Logic 5 projects that I still have on hard drives here in my house, and they still are able to move over into the brand new Logic Pro X. Open GarageBand songs directly from Logic X. Sure, if you're creating on GarageBand and you finally make that leap up to Logic Pro, shouldn't you be able to bring all those old projects back in? I think you should, and they said you should. Support Core Audio. Well, that's our interface stuff. We talked about that. Again, one of the reasons why we do talk about interfaces is because it does come up later down the line when we're talking about software. Support for audio units effects. So AU is an audio unit. That's what Macs use for plugins. So just make sure if you're buying third-party plugins like Steven Slate, that software has audio unit compatibility, which it does, and most do. But there are some that don't. If you are a Reason, Ableton Live, or any other compatible application for Rewire, Rewire is built into Logic. I've used it sparingly, but I've used it here and there over the last few years because students or other people have created projects in those software, and I want to migrate it into Logic. Well, Rewire allows me to do that. It's kind of like a little bit of the AAF, which is what's next here on the list. Import and export AAF and XLM, Logic Pro X, or Final Cut Pro X projects. So AAF, as we did with 2 weeks ago, moving from Pro Tools to Logic, we use that open source file to bring information, audio, over to. Import, export MIDI, yep, love it. Import, export notation, which we don't use, but sure, if you are going to eventually use some sort of notation program, Sibelius from Pro Tools uses it. They use a Music XML, which is kind of like an open source file. Of course, this program is very good. I actually use Logic a lot to do audio conversions. So I might find an audio file that is a little outdated and is not supported by QuickTime or iTunes. So I sometimes try to open up or force to open it up in Logic to do a reconversion, to change it from one file type to another. So if you look here, AIFF WAV file, CAF files, SD2 files, which were Sound Designer, by the way, Apple Lossless, any eligible MP3, AAC, even non-eligible files will be converted over to some sort of PCM, pulse code modulation. So all those are pulse code modulation formats. So I'm throwing it out there because I use this to convert files a lot. I really do. And if, in fact, you're having trouble with a file that's not playing here, not playing there, try to drop it into Logic and see what Logic can do with it, and then bounce it or convert it out to a WAV file so it's a little more universal. Of course, we can record AIF and CAF and WAV files, as we said over in Logic. When we went into its ability of recording, and sorry, it was in audio, Nope, nope, sorry, other one. It's in preferences that we can basically make sure we're recording our AIF files, WAV files, and CAF files. I recommend always staying in WAV files because it's universal. AIFF is equal to a WAV file. It's just built by Apple. So not that I don't recommend it, but I find broadcast WAV files or BWFs to be probably some of the best files, most universal files. Never had a problem with a WAV file. I've had some problems with AIF. I've had some problems with CAF. So I'm going to say stick with WAV. It's just a little more universal. Of course, we can bounce to all those files as well, including things like MP3s, M4As, lossless AACs, and burn any bounced audio directly to a CD. So that's part of the exportation process. So if I wanted to bounce this file, Command B brings up the bounce. You'll see that here are my potential file types. So I know I don't have any CD drives connected, but in the post-cold modulation, you could see I have these three options. In the MP3 option, I'm given the settings for the MP3, and the M4A, I'm giving options for AAC or Apple lossless. So this is where that comes up when you do a bounce. Why they even put it here is because part of Logic's ability is to get it out to a file type that people would want, a client or an artist or whoever wants a very specific piece of audio would want that. And to be honest with you, nowadays, bouncing files to a CD or DVD, let's be honest, very little of the laptops available nowadays have a CD burner, and very little people even use a CD anymore. So that's kind of becoming a thing of the past. But in fact, if I had a CD burner in my laptop and it was a blank disk, I could actually use Logic to burn the disk, to author it, to include metadata, to do all the things that I would want it to do. They basically started to build in what this old program we used called WaveBurner would do. And that is the ability to do and handle all of your mastering in Logic and then burn it out to a disk for distribution. So very, very cool concepts, all in this software. Like I said, the whole list here of things is so important to understand its capabilities, especially when purchasing and buying a piece of software like this. You really want to find out as much as you can about it before you invest any money. $200 doesn't seem like a lot, but for some people it is. And so they really should be knowledgeable about what the capabilities are. Now, again, this is all on Apple's regular page. If you just go into, Mac or Apple and you just type in Logic Pro, it comes up with all the fun things. You can look at pretty things. Oh, look at that remote. And it gives you the bullet points, of course, what it's capable of doing, the plugins and stuff it comes with. One of the cool things about this particular software is the newest version actually comes with a very cool new visualization, colorful as you can see here. But it actually has a lot of new features. So if you can get the most recent version, I would recommend it. Plus, then you get all this awesome content, 63 gigabytes of content. It starts to go into this pro level, where it really starts talking about the advanced features for a normal everyday user. Just want to make a few, little ditties here and there. It really probably won't make a lot of sense. But as we go through it, you'll see how things like stretch and flex mean a lot. Well, I'll get right to you in a second. So as it comes down, there's a couple of videos about it and give you the overview. Of course, I just mentioned flex time and flex pitch, which is important. Yeah, all these things here are relatively important. Cool. Yeah, they've now updated the Logic Remote to allow you now a keyboard. So, hey guys, if you don't have a keyboard, if you don't have a USB keyboard, check this out. If you have an iPad or an iPhone, I believe it'll work on the iPhone as well. Download the Logic app, the Logic Remote app. You can actually pull up the keyboard and play sound with this device. Now, again, you're dealing with a touch screen. You're not dealing with a real piano. So all the subtleties of a piano playing are going to be lost on this. So you're going to have to do a lot more editing in the MIDI to make it sound more natural. getting multi-touch mixing and pairing and playing. So this is very cool. Some new stuff that came with the new Logic Remote app. And then, of course, the drummer, which I said was like an AI drummer. Cool. We'll get into that later. Build your own custom drum kit. This is one of the plugins in here, so you can actually add and take away pieces to the kit. Very awesome. Compositions, like I said, there's so much high-end level editing available in Logic. You can see that there's a lot of automation done to this MIDI pattern, which is one of the effects, which I'm not sure what he's using. Looks like they're using an Alchemy cutoff, so it's probably very, very cool. Great ways to record, and we're going to get into this as we go along more. But again, this is stuff that when I buy a piece of software, I really sit down and take my time and look through it to see if this is what I want to use. And this is what I did, 13, 14 years ago when we decided what softwares to use. And it probably wasn't as complex as this, but when I looked in it and dug deeper into what Logic was capable of, not only was the content worth the money, but the capability of the software worth the money at the time. And it's only gotten better. Track stacking and comping, project alternatives, and ways of creating fader groups, which what VCA faders are. Of course, our automation, and even more pro level in the mix. So production features, these are all things, again, I'm just going through Apple's website that you guys all can do on your own as well. If you look in the plugins and sounds, they'll even show you a bunch of the stuff that they recommend. Is that Alchemy? Yeah, Alchemy is a very cool electronic synthesized based thing, but they also have studio strings and brass, vintage keyboards, and some synth, of course, pianos, which we know, the MIDI arpeggiator and MIDI plugins themselves. Sculpture's a fun one to mess around with. The drum kit designer is awesome. EXS24 is something we are going to learn about. We are going to sample stuff. So I just kind of peruse through this website sometimes and just see anything new that was updated and giving me the information. This is pretty cool, actually. This is a little resource thing where you can kind of find information about things. So if you're having trouble finding, where's training? Can I find training? Well, yeah, there is training for Apple Pro. I have the certification. You can find it in New York City when we're allowed back into New York City. Plugin units, and again, there's so many here to go through, and stuff that allows you to third-party plugins that you can buy, interfaces that are available, EXS24 libraries. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. What we were looking at today was the tech specs. So, like I said, I always like to, and I've done this with other pieces of software too, as you know, look at what the capabilities of the software is before we move forward with it. I wanted to take a quick step back. Now that we learned a little bit about the interface and what everything is and where it goes, I like to then double back and just show you what's going on behind the scenes and what happens in the software, what's capable, what's available, what's there for you to take advantage of. And then we'll start to get into this week how you're going to access all of this stuff, how we're going to do some regular editing in Logic. We already talked about the tools, but then how do you take advantage of those tools and how do you do certain things to really get subtle edits going? What standard operating procedures would be for doing a basic edit for a fade or for the beginning or end of something. So there's a little of the cure. That's what I was working on. So yeah, there's a number of things that we're going to talk about for the rest of the week. But again, I wanted to start it off on a Monday with just some straight up facts and information. So Wawa, you had your hand raised. Let me unmute you, buddy, and I'll lower your hand. What's up?
So how do you get the latest one, like the latest?
That is a good question. All right. So there's a few ways. I appreciate that question. There's a few ways to make sure you're up to date. As you saw over here, it tells you where we're at. So if I go to buy, right, and you go ahead and, of course, have to go to the App Store to get this, this is where you're going to find the information about what the latest version is and then whether it needs to be updated or not. So you could see right away, mine says update. So on this computer, I need to update this. This is not the latest version. So let's see version history. So right now we're up to 10.4.8. So if I look at mine, I'm at 10.3.2. So for me, I'm not up to date. I cannot actually update this one on this laptop because the school has to update it, not me. But on my personal computer, which is literally right behind this laptop right now, my 27-inch iMac, I have the most up-to-date piece of software on that. So if in fact you've already purchased it, Wawa, and you want to update it, that'd be the way to go, is to just go into the App Store, or like I did, just travel through the website and it'll redirect you to the App Store where you can get the most current version. You could say this one was only done 3 months ago. So it's relatively up to date, which is really good. Anybody else questions so far? Questions, raise your hand, please, so I can unmute you and avoid all the chatter. It's a chatter. Yes, Wawa.
Hmm?
No, you're
I
unmuted. I thought you unmuted yourself so you can ask the question. Fair enough.
Wait, hold up. So you don't have to pay for the new update?
I don't know. You don't have to pay for the new update. Nope.
All right.
No.
Hello.
Mike, I don't think that was a raise of the hand, but I think that was like a wave. I think you waved at me.
No, it was a clap.
Oh, it was a clap. Oh. Clap on, clap off. Any questions?
No, I'm good.
Bye-bye. All right, what else? Anybody else questions about Logic so far? No, doesn't look like anybody else is super interested in stats, which is fine, but be aware that some of those stats, some of that information will be on the test on this Friday. Like I said, the important ones to me were things about plugins, things about the mixer, groupings, channel strip potentials. Yeah, Wawa, what's up? You lowered your hand. Yeah, what's up? No. Oh boy. Are you there? Wawa, can you hear me? No? Yes, what's up?
Yeah. How do you activate the automatic color for the track? Like whenever you add a new track, you change the color. How do you do that?
So you mean I want to colorize what I have here?
No, like how like whenever you add a new track, it get
Uh-huh.
a different color. How do you do that?
Well, I really don't get a new color. Oops, didn't want to do that. So audio tracks are blue, as we know, and MIDI tracks are green. The main output is red. Now that's the default. So when you add a new track, that's the color. You're talking about back over here in this, am I right? Where you saw that they have all their tracks colored, correct? You're
Yeah.
looking at this? Yeah, I mean, they're doing that manually.
Oh, okay. So you can do that automatically.
Well, let's take a look. I don't think I remember. I'm using a lesser version at this point. I'm a full point value behind. But if you would want to know about things like that, I'm sure that they would put that here in the preferences under display. So here, let's see, grid lines are automatic. Background is dark. The mixer doesn't look like I can change color that way. No, I don't see anything about automatic colorization. So they probably end up doing it manually. So again, it's not hard. All you have to do is hit Option C, and it brings up the color palette. And you can have this floating on top all the time. You could have this just at the bottom of your screen like that. So if I just click on this and change it to this, that's it. That's all you'd have to do. Now you can see that I colored the clip, but my track is not colored. So here we go. I'm going to select the track. I'm going to match it with the color, and there we go. So then the color of the clip matches the color of the track in the mixer. Like I said, I'm using version, what did it say, 3.2. So that might be a brand new option inside of the software now. I don't remember seeing that as an option for a general setting per se. I'm looking just through these really quick. I don't see much about that there. Nope. No, definitely not this. Nothing about colorization or coloring tracks while creating. So, I mean, I'll look it up. I'll see if it's in the new one, but more than likely, I have a feeling that what you're seeing on their website, that was done manually just to make it look nice on the website, because it does look nice on the website. Look how beautiful. Ooh. Also, these plugins have updated. As you can see, the EQ plugin here, this is a dampening EQ. It looks like they not only just have a line as a input visualization, but now they do like this powder looking thing, which is pretty cool.
That's for the reverberation. That's not the EQ. I use that all the time.
Oh, you're right. It is. It is a reverb. Lead vocal, colorful voiced hall. So a hall would be plug-in. But I'm looking over here on the left-hand side where it says dampening EQ. Sorry, I didn't look at the whole thing. Of course, down here at the bottom, if you saw attack and density and decay and distance, that would all be things of reverb that you would obviously have. But very cool looking thing. You use that now. So do you have the latest version, Wawa?
I have like the close to the latest version because I didn't buy mine too long ago.
So you should be able to get the brand new one or the most current version on your computer.
So I'm
But
planning
like I
to
said,
do
just
that.
travel through the website, go to buy, and that'll bring you to here, and that'll bring you to the App Store. And I just clicked once. I didn't have to click a lot, and there it is. Yeah, I have a see, I can't get in there because it's a locked address. So nothing I can do about that. I'll have to have them update it. I'm supposed to get new laptops about 3 months ago, so it can be too late for that now. All right, anything else? Anything else? Last chance to raise your hand if you do not understand. All right, so like I said, and for anyone that missed it as you were entering in, always check the Google Classroom. I've been updating it daily, even over the weekend. I've been checking and grading work. I've added notes into some work. I've done a lot of the things that a lot of the teachers at the homeschool are doing, so please treat it as such. Grades are starting to be issued out. Attendance is being kept every day. So you have to please make sure that you keep on track of everything and check in every single day, if not multiple times a day, to see what is new and what's out. If anyone else, again, that's not in this chat, which there are still a lot of kids not in this chat, there's at least half the class not here. Please make sure you get the word out via social media or texting them directly and letting them know that they're missing out. They will be held accountable. We've done everything we can to try to get in touch with these people. And of course, every single lesson from here on out will be recorded, and it then will go into our YouTube page. So if you missed a part, like I know, let's see, Vince. Yeah, Vince left and had to go to another class. So he can go back and watch it on YouTube later today to see what he missed. And that's a big way of being able to reach out and grab even more people. Also, make sure if you're not part of the Google Classroom, make sure you get on that Google Classroom. Remember, you have to use a personal email address, a personal one. You can't use your homeschool's email address to join this. It won't let you. You need a personal email address to join the classroom. There was work that was already due last week, so please make sure you submit that or resubmit that, and make sure that you are completing the work for this week, and that includes Project 6C and 6D. All of this stuff is accessible. All of the stuff on the Google Classroom is here where you can turn it in and send it in. And once you do that, like I said, I'm seeing people do it. So when I go into, let's say I said 8B before, I can see who handed it in and who didn't. So please make sure that you're doing that, because again, this is all for real. This isn't fake stuff. This isn't just like, hey, give them work to do, busy work. No, these are the grades that are going down into my book. I have my book home. I have all the information. So please make sure, and I'm keeping attendance. So please make sure you're doing what you have to do to get through these next few weeks. All right. Anybody else have a question before we go?
They said we might be here until April 30th.
Well, not might. I have a feeling that directive from the president about quarantining, or at least non-essential stuff, until April 30th is probably going to be the go. So
Yeah, that
I would
thing from
anticipate
last
it being till
last
April
night.
30th. Right now, I'm saying April 30th. And we'll just keep taking it week by week. That's what it comes down to, man. I mean, it's going to be a matter of, and I hate all the coin terms that are out there, like flattening the curve and getting over the curve. But here's the deal: once we start seeing the numbers go down, then you can at least say 2 weeks, if not 3 weeks from then.
Yeah.
Because once the numbers start going down, that means less people are getting it. More people that got it are getting better. Things are people are getting antibodies, and less people are being infected. That means it's on its way out. That's what they found in China. That's what they found in Italy. So once they can do that, then we can anticipate probably at least 2 weeks of no school from that point. So keep your ears and eyes on the news and follow along with the local stuff. They were talking about how New York City is, still got plenty of time to go, and then it's going to move outward from there. So more than likely, like a ripple in a pond, it's going to wave out here on Long Island. So we're probably not even the height of it out here yet. So just again, to reiterate what everyone's saying, do your best to stay inside, to get away from people, wash your hands, don't touch anything that comes from the outside world, stay in your house. And if you do get sick, and only if you get sick, do yourself a favor and try to keep as much distance away from other people. And if it gets to be really bad, make sure you get yourself tested. And then, of course, hopefully everything will be okay with you and your family. And don't take any ibuprofen, apparently. Don't take ibuprofen, apparently. Only Tylenol.
Ibuprofen's gonna kill you.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be rough, man. This is no joke. This is gonna be a really tough thing to do over the next few weeks. But if again, I think like everyone said, if we can get through this, we might be able to look at May and June as salvageable, and we might be able to get through this relatively unscathed out here on Long Island, because we're not so densely populated. And as long as we're all following the rules and doing what we're supposed to do, doing our part, and not only does that include being safe, but also doing the work. Because if they find, work isn't getting done and people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, they will extend the school year. You'll be going to school through freaking July. So do yourself a favor and do it now while you can, and don't ruin it when you do have the ability to go outside and now still have to go to school. That would be very, very foolish. Yes. Let's see. Go ahead, Alexis.
People are looking at this as a bioterrorist attack. Like,
it is not. It has been proven by a number of different scientists that this came from a more than likely transmitted through an animal. And that's why they call it the Wuhan virus, because it starts in that area where there is a lot of markets that sell and have very exotic animals for food. And that's what these people live on. So they kind of traced it back already to the fact that it could be a bat. But it could be something even more exotic than that. And if it wasn't cooked properly or prepared properly the way it should have been, that is where it could have started. But no, there's no evidence of man making this. It's too elegant for a man to make this. Let's be honest. This thing is so crazy, ridiculously specific, that there's no way anyone but Mother Nature could have made something like this. Only Mother Nature could be this complex. All right. Well, what's up, Vince?
She's evil.
What happens when you're not here?
What do you mean?
You said like if you're absent, like doesn't be like I don't
Well,
know.
no,
Happens.
you checked in on the participants, so you're good. But if there's people that aren't,
I wasn't here for like a week.
Right. I mean, just stay in the chat from now on. How about that?
Okay.
That's all.
And also, I have a question because I tried to download Pro Tools first and it wasn't working.
Did it not work because of the install? Did you not download it properly? Like, what do you think the deal was?
I don't know exactly. Like, I was trying to. It's like when it runs through the whole like agreement stuff, it just wasn't working.
It might be a compatibility with your computer. That's possible. That's why we spent time today talking about what we talked about, making sure the computer is has the ability to install it. The other thing is there's a number of things you have to go through. If you read that sheet that I handed you, where you have to sign up for at iLock, you also have to wait a certain amount of time for your account to be activated. I think it's at least 24 hours, if not more. And then you have to verify your email address as well. I don't know if you did that. There's a lot of places where it could go wrong. And that's the reason why I handed out that sheet that kind of steps you through the process. Now, if you have that sheet, awesome. If not, Vince, do me a favor and email me, and I'll try to see if I can find it somewhere in my account here where I can take it, and I'll either send it to you directly or I'll post it for everyone.
Okay.
Cool. Anything else? All right. So here's the deal. Like I said, make sure you're doing the work. Make sure you're checking in every day. And I will repost this video, this Zoom conference today on our YouTube channel right after I'm done here, so that you guys can watch it, listen back to it, and try to pick out things that you might have missed. You can take notes on it. And I will release the notes early this week, so that way you have at least 48 hours before the test on Friday to study and to go over everything. And of course, my second year is if you have the tests from last year, some of those questions will be on it. Not all of them. Like I said, have to revise the test here because of where we're doing it. We're not doing it in class anymore. So the questions are going to be more general, more based upon the stuff that we learned during the lessons. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little easier. Let's just say what it is for what it is. It's going to be an easier test. So you can use the test from last year, but it's not necessarily going to help. It's going to be a fairly easy, straightforward test about the stuff that we did. All right. All right, guys. Appreciate your time. Appreciate it. Hey. Can I put me there? Can I put me as I like how you put Tom and Jerry weird mask on you. That's always fun. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 o'clock. For more information, email me or go through the Google Classroom. I will be back. Yes, Mike. Peace out.